Hello and welcome to the Covert Nerd Podcast. Today we'll be talking about community building, and then we'll be talking about faith from Valiant Comics. So let's nerd it up and get started. First, I want to thank you for listening. I appreciate the time you give me. Please visit covertnerd.net for all the different ways you can contact me and subscribe to the podcast. There's no suicide, there's no alcoholism, there's no drug addiction, and very little crime. They didn't have anyone on welfare. So the researchers in this town decided to look at ulcers. They didn't have any of those either. The people of Roseto, Pennsylvania were dying of old age. It was a place that lay outside everyday experience, where the normal rules didn't apply. Roseto was an outlier. Rosetans were healthy because of where they were from, because of the world that they had created for themselves in their tiny little town in the hills of Pennsylvania. In 1992, researchers began to realize the secret of Roseto wasn't diet or exercise or genes or location. It had to do with Roseto itself. As researchers walked around the town, they figured out why. They looked at how Rosetans visited one another, stopping to chat in Italian on the street or cooking for one another in their backyards. They learned about extended family clans that underlay the town's social structure. They saw how many homes had 3 generations living under one roof, and how much respect grandparents commanded. They went to Mass at Our Lady of Mount Carmel and saw the unifying and calming effect of the church. They counted 22 separate civic organizations in a town just under 2,000 people. They picked up on the particular egalitarian ethos of the community, which discouraged the wealthy from flaunting their successes and helped the unsuccessful obscure their failures. No one was used to thinking about health in the terms of community. So there you have it. It's an article I found, and I will post a link in the show notes so you can read more about it. Malcolm Gladwell, in his book Outliers, expounded on this particular town of Roseto, Pennsylvania. And the reason I wanted to talk about that is because as I was getting ready for the episode, I was thinking about community. Because where I live, we're starting a podcast community of other podcasters in the area. Also in our area is a shop called Behind the Glass Comic Art Gallery that not only sells comics, but it also encourages the local artist community. There's also D&D and Pathfinder communities where people get together and play those games. Community of people that help the homeless. All around us, we see communities being built. Some good, some bad. Some big, some small. But at the end of the day, we as humans like to build communities. We like to get around other like-minded people. Why do you think cons like Comic-Con and other types of cons are so popular? We like to be around people who are into the things that we're into. Now, none of these communities will probably allow you to live in your 90s or even up to 100 like the community of Roseto, but what they will do is give you a sense of belonging, a sense that you're not alone. It'll give you more enthusiasm when you leave those meetings or those communities and you go back to the real world and you have more passion for what you are doing and what you're into. You will learn. You'll find something out that you didn't know before, and you will meet people and have connections that you didn't have before. I'm going to a local Comic-Con here in the area with people who like comic books and other nerdy things. That's how I recharge my batteries for all things nerdy. Recently, like I said, we're working on a local group of podcasters. The idea is to help each other get better at podcasting. Whether you're new to the craft or have been doing it for years, we all can learn and help each other. I think for the most part, people desire to help others. That's why I think the phrase, "Can you help me?" is more effective than "Can you do me a favor?" The latter insinuates you will have to pay them back at some point later in time, since the phrase "you owe me a favor" comes to mind when you say that. Anyway, the idea to build a local in-person community around the passion of podcasting, it will be fun and it'll be exciting to see what happens. And so I'll keep you up to date on what ends up going on. Hopefully you have a community of your own. Hopefully it's a community of people where you live and gather around the things that you love. If you don't, try to find one. Go on the internet. Most groups have some sort of online presence where you can find out when and where they meet. Try one out. If you don't like the one you visit, try another group. If you can't find one, consider starting one in your area around what you are interested in, whether it's horses or comic books or card game playing, whatever it is. If you can't find it, make it. And if you need some help and some ideas, let me know. I can try to help you out the best I can. Let me know what communities you're involved with and why. You can hit me up on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can email me, cn@covertnerd.net, and I'll include all my contact information in the show notes so that you can easily get in touch with me. I don't think Valiant Comics gets the positive praise that it deserves. Several years ago, I was listening to the Goat Kicker podcast by Carl Smith, and he was talking about the rebooting of Rye from Valiant. It's the Rye comic. He couldn't say enough good things about it. And I thought, what the heck? I'll check it out. I was pleasantly surprised at the fantastic art, the amazing storytelling that they did. I then proceeded to read their superhero team titles called Unity, which led to the Ninjak title that they print as well. Last but not least, I ran into Faith, which Carl had mentioned as well. I just never got around to her title until a few weeks ago. On a side note or side tangent, whatever you want to call it, I got to mention I've purposely, for the most part, avoided most Marvel and DC titles. I guess you could say it's my way of rebelling against the popularity of both publishers. Yeah, I'm that kind of rebel, right? But anyway, it's not that I never read them. It's just not as much as I've read into the independents like Valiant and Image. Anyway, back to the story. Faith. Jim Shooter and David Lapham created Faith Herbert, codename Zephyr, in 1992. She's a sci-fi and comic book nerd, which leads her to adopt more traditional superhero characteristics that her friends, such as secret identities and supervillains. She's a huge fan of Doctor Who. She's a legit fangirl who creates listicles and posts cat videos by day while fighting crime by night. Physically, Faith isn't your stereotypical female hero. What I mean is she's not a size 0 with a large bust line that most artists in the comic book industry tend to adopt. I know that does sound a little bit crude, but come on, guys, let's face it. Comic artists do get a little carried away when it comes to the female form in comics. I like the fact that the creators of Faith made her more realistic. She's one of us. She's a nerd girl who doesn't look like how society wants a young woman to look. She's not super skinny. She's not into being popular and pretty. She just wants to enjoy her nerdy stuff and be left alone. And by the way, she uses her powers for good. In fact, many of her storylines, she questions the motives of the other heroes because she doesn't want to inadvertently hurt somebody else. She has an innocence about her, and that's why she's a breath of fresh air. She's relatable, trying to balance a job, a boyfriend, and catching the latest episode of Doctor Who. Since her character is innocent, it's nice to read a more lighthearted book. Maybe you can relate. When you're reading more dark books, does it affect your mood? I know I can get that way. I have to realize when it's time to move to something a little lighter for a while. The darker topics and titles are okay, but just like anything, anything in moderation is good. I should clarify, it's not like Faith doesn't tackle any tough issues, but her character lends itself to not going there as much as maybe some other characters do. You aren't going to see her break a bad guy's back on purpose. In fact, she goes out of her way to avoid hurting anybody if possible, let alone kill anybody. Another interesting item I found was in the first appearance of Faith in Harbinger number 1 in 1992. When she's found out that she has superpowers, she thinks the people that came to her house to recruit her are there to make fun of her, which as a nerd, most of us can relate. When we were younger, we were afraid we were going to get made fun of because of the nerdy things we like. It definitely hints in that issue that she's been bullied at school before because of the things that she likes. And again, great books. They've rebooted it recently. Definitely check it out. In fact, this new Faith reboot, the one I read just recently was Hollywood and Vine Faith, a trade paperback that put 4 issues together. And that's a good thing about her books, is they collect most of them in trade paperback form, so they can do a long form story. But this one, Hollywood and Vine, that they did, got a lot of accolades. I'll just read through a few of them here, but Faith is named one of the 16 best comics in 2016 by Nerdist. Faith was named one of the 7 best new comics in 2016 by Vox. Faith was named one of the 14 best comics of 2016 by Uproxx. And the list goes on and on and on. And I'll include all of these in the show notes so you can take a look at it. But definitely check it out. Faith Volume 1, Hollywood and Vine. And there's been some more since then, so you can go look it up and check it out for yourself. Like I said, the great thing is they put it in long form so they can do better storytelling. And check out the other Valiant titles. They really do have some good stories. I highly recommend them as one of the better independents. There's Image, Valiant, and Dark Horse. There's some smaller ones, but check this one out. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Let me know what you think, though. Go to covertnerd.net, like I said, to find out the ways that you can get in touch with me. It's shout-out time. I want to make it quick. Mega, which is Make Eternia Great Again podcast about He-Man and Masters of the Universe. Jeff, Carl, and Eddie. Awesome podcast. If you're into Masters of the Universe, you'll love them. They're funny and informative. That one time I was abducted by aliens with Bree and Jamie. They just got back from a couple cons themselves. Check them out. They're funny and hilarious. You'll love them. Two-Headed Nerds. Great podcast about comics. Joe and Matt, very smart, and they know their stuff. So check them out. Bandrew Says podcast. If you're into tech and want a little 30-minute once-a-week information about the internet, apps, and all things techie and geeky, check him out. The Bandrew Says podcast. Again, thank you for listening. I appreciate the time you've given me. Please go to covertnerd.net to subscribe and hit me up and let me know what you think. And until next time, nerd it up.